Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be showing you how we can install macOS 26 Tahoe on the PC behind me using three main things: the Proxmox installer, the HSV operating system script that you can get from the link in the description below, and just a few easy steps to get this up and running. So if you already have Proxmox installed, then please skip to the time on screen where you can get straight into configuring macOS and getting it up and running on your machine. However, if you're new to the Proxmox virtual environment world, then please continue watching this video from this point, as I'm going to show you exactly how to configure it in the best way possible. So let's get right into it now. So the first part of this video is going to be creating the Proxmox VE installer. For this we're going to need a USB drive, preferably over 4 GB in size. This one is 64 GB, it's a SanDisk and it's USB 3.2. Ideally, if you go over 32 GB, usually that means you get USB 3 or upwards speeds. This is USB 3.2 and is way overkill, but it is obviously the only one that I have to hand. So you're going to need a USB drive over 4 GB, the Proxmox ISO file, which you will obviously get from this video, and we'll go onto a PC now where we can plug in the USB drive and use BalenaEtcher to etch our file and flash it onto that USB drive, ready to be put onto the computer behind me. So let's get into that now. So here we are on my Windows 11 desktop. All we're going to do first is head over to proxmox.com, if I can spell that right, and then go over to the download section and click on download, and the latest version as of writing this is 8.4-1. so I'm going to click download. It is around 1.6 GB in size. Depending on your internet speed, depends on obviously how long this takes. You can see it's around 40 seconds for me, but again, depending on your internet, it could take longer. But once this is downloaded, again, like I said earlier in the video, we're going to use BalenaEtcher to flash this onto our USB drive. So we'll wait for this to download and then we'll use BalenaEtcher to flash this. So you can see the Proxmox ISO is now downloaded. So we're going to go over to etcher.balena.io and then we're just going to simply click on download Etcher. Now there used to be a portable version of BalenaEtcher, but unfortunately they've removed that. So we're going to have to download and install Etcher, which is fine for my use case, but if you're using a corporate owned device that doesn't allow software installation, then you may run into difficulties. But that's 173 MB in size, so it shouldn't take long at all on all broadband connections. We're going to then click on the setup, and what it'll do, it doesn't actually prompt you for anything but run, as of course it's just basically a program that allows you to install Proxmox onto a USB drive or flash it. So you can see in a moment we'll get the Etcher icon and then we'll get a screen something like this. So you can see the screen, we get three options. So we get flash from file, flash from URL and clone drive. We're going to click flash from file and then go to our downloads folder and select the Proxmox ISO. Then on select target, you're going to plug in your USB drive and it should automatically detect it. So I'm going to plug mine in now and we'll see what happens. So I've just plugged in my USB drive. If I click on select target, you can see the USB drive here. I'm going to click on that to select it and click select one. Then click on flash. It'll ask for our command prompt. Just click on yes. And from here, it will then begin to flash. Again, depending on your drive speed, it could take up to 10 minutes. It shouldn't be too bad for myself. I have only plugged it into a USB 3 port, so it may take longer than I thought. But we're going to wait for that, and you can see around 20 seconds. It'll then verify that the flash was successful, and we're then ready to reboot, change some BIOS settings, and boot straight into the Proxmox installer. So let's wait for that. So you can see it's just validating, and once that's finished, it should say flash complete. That means that now we're ready to reboot our machine, which I will do now, and hold the BIOS key. So for me it's delete, as I'm using the ASRock board. But for you, if it's for example Asus, I know that that is usually the F2 key or delete. But depending on your motherboard manufacturer, depends on obviously the boot key and the BIOS key. So I know that it's delete for ASRock, and you can see I am now in the BIOS. So you can see I've got 24 gigabytes installed, and I'll explain why now. So Proxmox itself requires a little bit of memory. Originally this system had 16 gigabytes of RAM in it. I've added an extra 8 gigabyte stick, so then Proxmox can run the best it can do on 8 gigabytes of RAM. And then the other 16 gigabytes of RAM can be allocated to the macOS VM. So again, depending on your specification, so if you have 64 gigs of RAM for example, you may choose to assign 60 gigabytes of RAM to the macOS VM and leave 4 for Proxmox. Or you may choose to allocate 32 gigabytes of RAM to your macOS, 16 gigabytes of RAM to a Windows VM, and then the rest to Proxmox. It's entirely up to you. All we're going to do is we need to locate two main settings. Now this is designed for AMD boards, but it may look a little bit different if you're using Intel. We're basically finding the virtualization technology, which is on the side of the screen. You will see that SVM mode needs to be enabled. So SVM for AMD is the CPU virtualization option. So as long as that's enabled, we'll go back and go down to AMD CBS and select NBIO common options, and then make sure under NB configuration that IOMMU is enabled. If you're on Intel, you need to locate the VTX function and the VTD. So IOMMU allows you to pass through PCI Express cards natively to your VMs, so that gives them direct access to the graphics card rather than using virtual graphics cards and virtual drivers. It literally gives the VM direct access. Once we've done that, we can press the F10 key, which will save and exit changes. Then we're going to hold our boot option key. For me on ASRock it's F11, but for you it could be F8. Again, just consult your motherboard's manufacturer's website and it usually will tell you straight away. So I'm holding F11 now, and you can see we get greeted with the menu like so. We're going to find our USB. Now for me it's just called USB, but it may say the manufacturer like SanDisk, depending on your motherboard manufacturer. Once we've done that, we press enter. You can see we get two options. So install Proxmox VE graphical or terminal. I'm going to go graphical because this is going to be easier for the newbies to Proxmox. Obviously, depending if you're feeling lucky or not, you can go the terminal UI, but I'm going to stick graphical for the people in this video. So it will then begin to load Proxmox. It does take quite a bit for the first initial startup, but what it'll do, it'll test the USB drive for the ISO, it'll grab a DHCP lease from your network, and then from there, you can see it's doing that at the moment. From there, it will be ready for us to configure it. So we'll wait for this and I'll be back with you shortly. So here we are again on the EULA page. So I've moved myself to the top just so you can see all the options on screen. I'm going to accept this because I've done this thousands of times with all my clients and myself, so I have already read this, but of course agree to this at your own disclosure. If I click on agree, we'll then get a target hard disk option. So this is the disk you want to install Proxmox on. You have to be very careful here as you could erase the wrong disk. Luckily for me, I've only got one disk in the system, which is a 1TB NVMe disk. However, if you have multiple drives, I would always check that you formatted the correct drive. HSVE doesn't take any responsibility for drive loss or data loss, so please do this at your own disclosure. I'm going to select my disk and then click on next, and then we're ready to configure our country. So I'm in the United Kingdom, so I'm going to select that, click on next again, then set a root administrator password, which I will do now. So I've done that now, and enter an email address so you can have it where if we set up SMTP we can have alerts signed up to our emails. Click on next. The next part is a bit of a difficult one for people that don't like networking. All we're going to do is press the left arrow to move to the start, delete where PVE is stated all the way, and then all we're going to do is make sure that on our management interface we have a green light. If you have multiple interfaces in the system, make sure to select the one with the green light, as that is the one that the interface is getting internet from. For the host name, it needs to be a fully qualified domain name. So for me, all I'm going to do is type in bigpc.home.local. You should set this to at least a .local address, but you can set it to .microsoft.com if you wanted to, but of course that's not recommended. Then an IP address needs to be set. So sometimes, depending on your install, you'll automatically get an IP address from your current range, but otherwise you may need to set one yourself, like myself here. So I know my range. So for you it may be 192.168.1.0/24. You can check this by going onto your Windows settings and right clicking, go into the adapter properties and then go into details. Then you can find your CIDR. I know mine is 172, which by the way numlock isn't on by default, so make sure that's on. 172.16.4. and then whatever I want it to be. I'm going to set mine to .199 because I know that that's free, and the gateway is 172.16.4.1, and then DNS server. This is quite a essential step because it allows you to communicate with our script server afterwards. I recommend just setting it to Google's, as that's one of our most used DNS servers. Once you've done that, click on next, untick automatically reboot after installation, and then select install. Proxmox will then do all of the things it needs to do to install Proxmox to your system. Once this is finished, we'll get an install complete screen, which of course you'll see in a moment. So I won't keep you waiting here, so we'll wait until it installs and then I'll be back with you. So here we are, you can see installation successful. So that is always a thing that we love to see. So I'm going to click on reboot. You can see it's advising us to go to the following URL once the system's rebooted, which I will go through in a moment. So if we click on reboot, it will then reboot the machine. I recommend taking out your USB drive, but if you decide not to, it should still boot anyway. Once the system's rebooted, we will then get to a terminal prompt, which you will see here. So you can see the terminal prompt we're getting now. Again, it's advising us to go to the following URL. This is the step where you will need a spare laptop or a computer. Obviously, if you don't have one of these, please just borrow one off a friend. You can do this on a phone, but it's not really recommended. I really don't recommend doing it off a phone. So please do obviously use another device connected to your home network, preferably a laptop or another desktop PC. So we'll go on to a desktop and we are ready then to configure Proxmox. So here we are on our PC. All we're going to do is go to the following URL, making sure that we have HTTPS and 8006. We'll get a warning saying that our connection's not private. Now that's because the Proxmox server has a self-signed certificate, so we're just going to click continue unsafe anyway. Once we've done that, we're going to get to the Proxmox VE login page. The username is root and the password is the one that you set whilst you was installing Proxmox. And then you'll get a no valid subscription. So this, you may think, oh, so you have to pay for this now, but this is just for Proxmox support. You're obviously getting that from myself, and we do obviously offer consultation services as well. You can find out more about them in the description below. If I click on OK, and then head over to the node which is on the left hand side, and expand that, at the side you can see our 2 disks. Now you may think, why is the 2? So I'll explain those later in the video. But once we've selected our node, we're going to first go to repositories. We're going to remove the enterprise repositories by selecting them and doing disable, and we're going to click add, OK, and then click on no subscription. Once we've clicked on add, we're going to go to the shell and do a apt get update, and then 2 and signs like so, apt get full-upgrade. This will update and upgrade Proxmox to the latest version. You can see it's a 600 megabyte update, which isn't a lot in comparison to Windows updates of course, but you can see we're currently waiting for the firmware, So instead of keeping you waiting, all I'll do is I will catch up with you once the upgrade has finished. So you can see that the update is now completed. You can see a done full stop. So that is the next, that is the first part of the script done. So now that our Proxmox is up to date, we're going to head over to our HSVE website and we're going to log in to our account. If you haven't bought our template, you can simply go to templates, click on get template script, and it's £10 for 6 months of access. So once you've got the template and you've logged into your account, which I'm going to do now, you should then see your license in the middle, and if we go to licenses on the left hand side, you will be able to see them too. Now if we go to view details, we get the full instructions on how to run this. So we're going to copy the first command here and paste this into the shell. So this will ask for the license key, which we can again get from our account dashboard. Copy license key and paste this in. Then we get 8 options, so we're going to go 1, 2 and 3, and then I'll explain what the other ones do after the fact. So if we press number 1, it's going to ask us a very simple question. Are we using the AMD CPU or Intel? So I'm using AMD, so if I press option 2, it'll then set things up for an AMD CPU. So a lot of things will happen on the screen, but once that's done, as you can see, we're ready to move on to the next steps. So if we select the second option once again, this will then configure the GPU for pass-through 2. Now the only manual intervention will be using the commands in the description below, as these cannot be integrated into the script. This is due to each graphics card having its own ID, which I will explain more in a moment. So let's wait for this upgrade and then we'll go on to actually configuring the graphics card and blacklisting it from Proxmox's use. So once that's finished, if we press option 9 to exit, we are then going to run lspci-nn. This will display all PCI devices. So we're looking for the VGA compatible controller, which you can see here is my RX 570. We're going to then copy the following ID that I've highlighted. This will of course be different for you, and save this somewhere safe. Once we've done that, again as I said, all the commands are in the description below. We're going to copy our command from the description and modify the IDs to use our new ID, which is, for me, if I can locate this, is 1002:67DF. Once we've done that, press enter. That's it. So we're going to reboot the node to make sure that the GPU is blacklisted. Once we've done that, we're ready to download our 26 Tahoe template and then configure it. So let's wait for the system to reboot. It shouldn't take too long on a solid state drive. So once our Proxmox is rebooted, you may see that it gets stuck on this display screen. So this is because Proxmox has blacklisted the use of the GPU by itself. Now this is so we can assign this to our virtual machine. You may also hear and notice that the GPU fans are spinning at 100%. This is because Linux isn't actually installed a driver anymore for this graphics card. All we're going to do is go back to the web interface and we can download our template. So all we're going to do is rerun our script, again copying our license key, and this time we're going to run option 3. So option 3 to download the macOS template, and you'll see 2 new options. So we've got 2 options here. We've got macOS 26 Tahoe for advanced users, and then we've got the pre-installed version. I'm going to just be showing the pre-installed version today, as the advanced users requires further configuration. So if I press option 9, it will then download the macOS 26 Tahoe template. So you can see it's going to take around 20 minutes. This is because it's over 20 gigabytes in size. So I'm going to wait for this to download, and then I'll be back with you shortly once it's downloaded, so then we can restore this and start using it on our PC. So please bear with it whilst it downloads. So the template is now downloaded. Now all we need to do is run option 7, which will restore our downloaded template. So it's asking us where to restore it to. Here we only have one set of disks and nothing fancy, so we're going to restore it to local LVM. This is the recommended step. If you restore it to local, you will not get the VM to boot. So if I press this, we then get our option to obviously select what template we want to restore. We've only got one here, so I'm going to select option 1. Once I've done this, it will then begin to restore the template. Now the pre-installed template may take a little bit longer as it's over 20 GB in size, and it also has pre-installed macOS 26 Tahoe without any further configuration required. The only configuration we're going to need to complete is some changes to our OpenCore bootloader, which we will get onto later in this video. So what I'm going to do is wait for this to finish, and then we will get on to passing through our GPU, assigning our keyboard and mouse over to the VM, and then from there we will boot up the VM. You will then see the screen of my actual output of the HDMI on the RX 570, and then we can configure it and complete the steps. So stay tuned as we wait for this. So as you can see, we're now 100% complete, and you can see it says it's restored successfully. On the left hand side you can see our VM 100 HSVE Tahoe. Now we're ready to actually configure that. So if we press option 9, it will exit our configuration script. If we go over to the VM, making sure we're on summary, you can see we've got a preset user password as 1234, and all we need to do is, before booting the VM, if you have any of the following configurations such as an Intel 12th to 14th gen CPU, then please copy the ARGs above. If you have an AMD CPU like myself, please copy the ARGs below here, making sure to copy all of these as stated. If I copy this, go back to our shell and insert the command that will be in the description below, /etc/pve/qemu server/100 or whatever your VM ID is .conf. It will then bring up our VM configuration file, scroll down until you see the ARGs, comment that out with the hash key, make a space above balloon and paste in the ARGs. Do Ctrl X, Y and enter, and then that's it, we're ready to boot our VM. So let's get on to actually configuring the VM to boot. So to get this VM to boot, we can simply just click start and view the console, or if you have a compatible GPU, again you can find the compatible GPUs in the description on our GitHub page. So all we need to do is go to hardware, add PCI device, raw device and select our GPU. You can see mine's here. Clicking on advanced, ticking all functions PCI Express and primary GPU. We'll click on add, double click on default at the top and select none. OK. Our VM's ready to boot. Before we do this, we need our keyboard and mouse. Now if you have a compatible GPU and a compatible motherboard, you can add your pass-through like so. So you can pass through the whole controller. However, for easiness in this video and because I've not completed any advanced steps, if you would like to learn more about these, please contact us using support@hsve.cc. You can go to add, USB device, choose USB port and then select your devices. So I'm going to select my mouse, add a new device for my keyboard, and I'm also going to pass through my SanDisk just to show you how this works. Once I've done that, we're then ready to click start. Now before I do this, I'm going to show you what happens when I click on start. So on the Proxmox screen, as you can see behind me right now, if we click on start, the screen will then go blank in a few moments, and then we will be greeted with the HSVE OpenCore screen that we can then boot into macOS. It's just starting up in the background and initializing the GPU, so we'll wait for that now. So here we are on the macOS login screen. Now I'm having a few issues with my graphics card at the moment, so the pass-through did not work for myself, but as long as you followed all the instructions, there's no reason why this shouldn't have worked. However, I'm going to still show you what macOS Tahoe looks like on Proxmox without a graphics card. So you can see I'm entering 1234 as the password, as it states on the notes section of the virtual machine. Once this loads up, we'll be greeted with the macOS Tahoe desktop. It does look a little bit different because I don't have a graphics card pass through. Now again, like I said before, if I didn't have any graphics issues, then I'm sure it would look a little bit different. So please bear with me whilst the desktop loads up. So we're on the desktop. You can see it doesn't look very good at all. So we've got the background missing, etc. As well as a few other things, but without a graphics card this is what it would look like. You can see we're on 26.0 beta, and that's the beta version there. The display obviously is at 3 megabytes, but it would show you your real, obviously RX 570 in my case, if I didn't have any issues. So I wanted to thank you ever so much for watching this video. I hope you do enjoy the new style of these videos and the production level. If you do, please do consider leaving a like and subscribing to the HSVE channel. All the guides and commands and everything like that used in the description below on our GitHub page. Thanks ever so much for watching. Goodbye.